What's up, guys? We are back with another UFC predictions video. Almeida versus Lewis. Before we get into it, sorry that this video is coming out late. I had to re-record it because something was messed up with my microphone quality. I've already recorded this once already. So, let's get right into it. Kicking off the card at lightweight, we have Cowboy Fernandez versus Mark DeCassi. Um, Cowboy Fernandez is actually a really good regional fighter. He seems like he's very talented. He's got pretty good finishing potential too in the lightweight division. I just think he drew a pretty difficult debut in Mark DeCassi because he's just so well rounded. His striking is very good. You know, he was able to go to a decision with Rafael Fiziev on the feet, which not a lot of guys can. He was looking really good against Joel Alvarez on the feet. They were trading pretty equally, and Joel Alvarez is a guy I think is really good. And his grappling is really solid as well. His wrestling is no joke. I think he's just too well rounded for Fernandez, and I feel like if Fernandez doesn't get an early finish over Mark, the fight's just going to run away from him. And Mark's not an easy guy to finish in general. I just don't see a very easy path to victory for Cowboy Fernandez. So I'm going to be going with Mark DeCassi, probably by decision. I think he's going to pull ahead pretty easily in rounds 2 and 3, maybe after a little bit of a sketchy first round. Going up to women's strawweight, we have Eduardo Mora versus Montserrat Conejo Ruiz. This is a pretty open and shut case here. I'm going with Eduardo Mora here. Montserrat Conejo Ruiz is just not very good. She's lost to some decent opponents, but even in her wins, there has been nothing that has impressed me. The way she gets her takedowns is so amateurish. It's just I just don't see a way she can win this fight. Also, she is very small. She's 5 foot even with a 61-inch reach. I don't think she's going to be getting takedowns on Eduardo Mora, but I think Eduardo Mora can easily reverse Montserrat's takedown attempts and end up on top and get a submission in this fight. I'm going to be going with Eduardo Mora by submission. I think she's just a better fighter. She's bigger. She's younger. I think she's more skilled. Staying at women's strawweight, we have Angela Hill versus Denise Gomes. Now, I picked against Denise Gomes when she fought Yasmin Uruguay, along with like everyone. But she proved us wrong by finishing her in about 10 seconds. So, a part of me doesn't want to fade her again. But I think whoever you pick in this fight is good value. I really think this is a pick-em fight. I think both of these ladies can beat each other on any given night. Angela Hill is very hard to finish. She has a very good pace. She's been in there with really good fighters. And she seems to have near infinite cardio. She is coming off of a horrific beating, though, at 38 years old. And that's given me a little bit of pause. And Denise Gomes is riding a lot of momentum. She finished Bruna Brazil and Yasmin Uruguay. I think I might go with Denise Gomes, although Angela Hill is not a bad underdog at all. I think I was leaning towards Angela Hill for a little bit, but I think I'm going to trust the momentum and the power and the youth of Denise Gomes. I think she can get out ahead in this fight early before Angela Hill really has time to put a pace on her to start to come ahead. I think by that point it'll be too late. And I think Denise Gomes, if she doesn't finish Angela Hill, I think she'll win like a 29-28 decision, I think. Going up to light heavyweight, Vitor Petrino versus Modestas Bukauskas. This is a fight I've seen a lot of deliberation on, and a fight that I deliberated on in my pre-recorded video that you didn't see. I basically went back and forth for like 3 minutes on this fight. I'm not confident in either guy, to be honest. Vitor Petrino is a very athletic guy. He's got big power. He showed you folds to his grappling when he fought Marcin Prachnio. He's decent, but he leaves himself open a lot. He is completely bailed out by his athleticism, and there's going to come a point to where he fights a guy that catches him in the openings he leaves, and his athleticism isn't going to be able to win him the fight. I think that could be Modestas Bukauskas. I really do. Modestas Bukauskas is a guy. Now, he didn't look great in his last fight against Zach Plaga, but Modestas Bukauskas is a guy who has been in there with really good guys. Like, he took Miguel Oleksiejczuk to a close decision, and Oleksiejczuk's a fucking monster, as far as I'm concerned. You know, he's been in there with Jimmy Crute, who's decent. He's been in there with good guys. Vitor Petrino, Marcin Prachnow's okay. Like, he's a decent test for a lot of guys who are up and coming, but he's not Miguel Oleksiejczuk. You know what I mean? And Modestas Bukauskas is coming off 2 wins. He beat Tyson Pedro, who I think Tyson Pedro is above bottom feeder level of the light heavyweight division. Like, I think Tyson Pedro is okay. Like, if you're a bum, Tyson Pedro blows you up like Anton Turcauge. And the thing is, Vitor Petrino went life and death with Anton Turcauge. So I don't know how to read this fight, man. Can Vitor Petrino land a nuke on Modestas Bukauskas and knock him out? Sure. But I part of me wants to pick Modestas Bukauskas just because I think he's experienced enough, his striking is good enough to where he can see the openings that Petrino gives him and land his counter shots and outstrike Vitor Petrino. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas. He's a 2-1 dog, and I don't think Vitor Petrino should be a 2-1 favorite, in my opinion. I think I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas. I think this is going to be a hard fight for both guys, but I think Modestas is going to outstrike Vitor Petrino and eke out a decision, I think. Going to bantamweight, Victor Hugo versus Daniel Marcos. This fight I'm excited for because I watched Victor Hugo on the regional scene a little bit, and then I watched his Contender Series fight not that long ago. Guy is really good. Daniel Marcos is a beast, though. 15-0, 24-4. I believe the line for this fight has Victor Hugo as the underdog, which I'm not surprised, but I'm really thinking about taking another underdog. I'm thinking about taking Victor Hugo. He's got the grappling upside in this fight. His submission game is very good. He's able to get guys to the ground. And he's very good on the feet, man. Believe it or not, he's predominantly a striker. His stats would tell you that he's a grappler, but he's a really capable striker. Daniel Marcos is also a really good striker. He likes to work the leg kick game, but in his fight with Davey Grant, he just kind of looked slow. Like, he wasn't throwing slow. It's just like he was processing things slowly. Like, he wasn't putting on a pace on Davey Grant. He wasn't really throwing a lot. He was kind of standing there looking a lot of the time, from what I remember in that fight, and it was a really close decision that he won. Davey Grant's really good, but I feel like if you stand there and process information in front of Victor Hugo, if Victor Hugo's confident enough to not really want to process information, he's going to be like, I'm going to take you down. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to knock you out. And he'll go back and forth until one of those works. I think I'm going to go with Victor Hugo. I think he has the grappling to get Daniel Marcos on the ground. And I think he has the striking that's good enough to get Daniel Marcos' respect to the point to where he can set up his grappling with the striking and then chain that into potentially a submission. I like Victor Hugo in this fight. Daniel Marcos is a good pick too, but I think I'm just picking dogs today, fellas. I'm going with Victor Hugo. I think he's got more finishing upside. I think he's got more ways to win. But only time will tell. Closing out the prelims at welterweight, Renat Fakretnov versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. This fight is sick. This is a sick fight. Man, a lot of these underdogs I like, but Renat Fakretnov is a different kind of favorite, I feel like. He's a beast, man. He is really good. Coming off a 55-second win over Kevin Lee, just blew him up. Just absolutely blew him up. Then before that, he crushed Brian Battle. This guy's good. Brian Battle's a good fighter, too. Like, nobody's really been able to absolutely zero effort dominate Brian Battle like Renat Fakretnov did. But minus 360 is a little high. Like, I don't think he's been minus 360 against most of his UFC opponents, but they make him minus 360 against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, which is a little bit crazy. I think Renat should be probably like a 2-1 favorite, not minus 360. I think he's gonna win. I think he's just a better grappler. I don't think the style of Zaleski dos Santos translates well into a guy who's willing to just chain wrestle you. Because Zaleski is a guy who throws a lot of dynamic strikes, a lot of big knees, a lot of spin kicks, a lot of wheel kicks, things like that. But the problem is, when you're doing attacks like that, you leave yourself open to a guy who really just wants to blast into your hips and take you down. I don't know how the style is going to translate into a guy who is as good as a wrestler as Renat Fakhretdinov. And not only can Fakhretdinov wrestle, his striking's really quite good. He's been dropping a lot of guys in his last fights. Now, I'm going to go with Fakhretdinov. I think he's probably going to win maybe by like late round 2 submission, perhaps. I feel like he might get a submission over Dos Santos. I feel like he could tire him out with the wrestling pretty easily if he gets him down over and over again, which I think he can do. But Zaleski dos Santos did show really good takedown defense, I believe, against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. He's a live dog, man. He is as dangerous of a guy at welterweight than anyone. This guy is good. So this is going to be a scary one, I feel like. But I'm going to go with Renat Fakhretdinov. I think probably by like round 2 submission or maybe even a decision win. But I would not at all be surprised if he gets fraud checked by some fucking crazy crane hermit spinning back kick from Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Opening up the main card at lightweight, Ishmael Bonfim versus Vince Pichel. This one, I mean, when's the last time Vince Pichel fought? It's been over a year. He's 40 years old. He's a good fighter, but this is a tough one to come back to. Yeah, Ishmael Bonfim just lost, but it was to Benoit Saint Denis. You know, I gotta go with Ishmael Bonfim. I think he's gonna get Vince Pichel out of there early. His fight with Terrence McKinney, he was so composed the entire time, and he just out of absolutely nowhere just blasted him with the flying knee. I'm gonna trust in his striking over Vince Pichel's. Vince Pichel's a good fighter, but at this point in his career, he's coming off a long layoff. He's 40, and Ishmael Bonfim is gonna want to bounce back big time from that loss. I think he's going to get a TKO win in like rounds 1 or 2. I really do. Going up to middleweight, Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. Now, these guys are almost evens, with the line honestly favoring Rodolfo Vieira, which is interesting because I'm picking Armen Petrosyan. Rodolfo Vieira is a good fighter. He's got some of the best jiu-jitsu in middleweight in general. His striking's pretty bad. It's not great. And his ability to get takedowns really isn't there. So I'm not sure why the line is so close here. Rodolfo Vieira's only 2 wins in the UFC, I believe, are Dustin Stoltzfus, who's terrible, and Cody Brundage, who's terrible. Armen Petrosyan's coming off of a pretty decisive win over Christian Leroy Duncan, who's really, really good. Armen Petrosyan has been in there with really, really good fighters and beaten them. I gotta trust Armen Petrosyan in this fight, man. I think he's gonna defend Rodolfo Vieira's ugly takedowns. I don't think he's gonna get taken down. And I think he's just gonna outstrike Rodolfo Vieira on the feet and melt him in like the later rounds. Maybe get like a late round 2 or like round 3 TKO for Rodolfo Vieira. I think going up to middleweight, Caio Borralho versus Abus Magomedov. They have Caio Borralho as almost minus 300, which is crazy because Abus was, I think he was the favorite against Sean Strickland for a while, but I'm going to go with Caio Borralho just because he doesn't get tired after 3 minutes of fighting. Abus is a really good fighter. He's very dangerous very early. He's got a lot of finishing potential, but the thing is his finishing potential seems to drop completely off of a cliff once that round 1 bell rings. You know what I mean? I just can't trust a guy who gets tired like that. I mean, he looked so dejected against Sean Strickland in the second round. It looked like he just quit, like he just immediately gassed out and just crumpled. Kyle Borralio's not going to gas out. He's good enough to defend takedowns if Abbas wants to shoot him, and he's good enough to get his own takedowns on Abbas once he gets tired. His striking is really quite good. I'm just going to trust Kyle Borralio to win this fight. I don't even know if Abbas makes it to a decision if his cardio is that bad, man. I think Kyle Borralio is going to submit Abbas Magomedov in like the second round. I think he's going to just basically melt Abbas Magomedov. I think Kyle Borralio is I don't know about a better striker, but he's a more accurate striker. He picks his shots better, and he doesn't leave himself nearly as open as Abbas does. And I think their grappling could probably cancel each other out. Both of these guys are really good grapplers, but I think once Abbas slows down, Kyle Borralio is going to take the path of least resistance, take down Abbas Magomedov, and submit him. At heavyweight, we have Rodrigo Nascimento versus Dante Almeida. You gotta go Rodrigo Nascimento now. He has more ways to win. I think both of these guys are relatively even on the feet. I think Dante Almeida might be a bit better in the pocket in a boxing exchange, but Rodrigo Nascimento is not bad. But I think the way this fight plays out is Rodrigo just takes the path of least resistance and takes down Dante Almeida. I think he has the clear grappling upside in this fight. And I think he probably just coasts to a decision over Dante Almeida. I don't see Dante Almeida, if he gets taken down, really being able to get back to his feet. I don't really see Dante Almeida chinning Rodrigo Nascimento. Obviously, he could. He just knocked out Andrei Arlovski, but how old is Arlovski? Like 50? I just don't see it. I just can't trust Dante Almeida in this spot. I'm going to trust Rodrigo Nascimento to get the win here. He could easily coast to a decision, or he could submit Dante Almeida. Co-main event at welterweight, Gabriel Bonfim versus Nicholas Dalby. They have Gabriel Bonfim as a minus 625. And I'm going to be picking him to win. I just, like this guy, watching this guy fight, he is so good. Like this guy has finishing potential. He can finish you any way he wants. His striking is really good. His grappling is really good. And Nicholas Dalby's a guy who kind of has to find his way into a fight and squeak out a decision. Nicholas Dalby's not really a guy who finishes people. He's more of a decision-winning fighter. He's 38. He's the smaller guy. He doesn't have the finishing potential. I think Gabriel Bonfim, I think he's going to get Dalby out of there pretty quick, I feel like he's just not going to respect him and go blow him up. I really do. I think he's probably going to end up submitting Nicholas Dalby. I think he's just going to take him down and submit him. Kind of a similar way to the way he beat Trevin Giles. And Trevin Giles is not a bum either. Like, he's a solid guy. He's a solid test for a lot of up-and-coming prospects. And the ease in which Gabriel Bonfim absolutely dismantled him was crazy. So I think if he could do that to Trevin Giles, he could do it to Nicholas Dalby. Yeah. Go with Gabriel Bonfim. Probably by submission. All right, heavyweight main event time. Jailton Almeida versus Derek Lewis. Do I need to tell you who I'm going with here? As much as I love Derek Lewis, as much as everybody loves Derek Lewis, this is a nightmare of a matchup if you've been watching Derek Lewis's recent fights. I'm going to go with Jailton Almeida. Do I want to see him beat Derek Lewis to a pulp? No. Is he going to? Probably. Derek Lewis just does badly against guys who have good trips and foot sweeps. Like a guy like Sergey Spivak. Now, I said in my Cyril Gane versus Sergey Spivak video that Sergey Spivak wouldn't take down Cyril Gane because he doesn't shoot blast doubles. He trips. He presses you up against a cage and trips you. It's the exact opposite, I think, for this fight. Derek Lewis is really good at defending double legs because he has a really good uppercut, and he's a big, strong guy. But if you press him up against the cage and go for like a trip on him, he just can't defend it. He just can't defend it. And I think Jailton Almeida is going to get him to the ground easily. I think I might even favor Jailton Almeida in the striking. I think he's going to be a lot faster than Derek Lewis. But obviously, there's always the chance Derek Lewis connects with something. And if he does, Jailton Almeida will die. But if that freak chance doesn't happen, Jailton Almeida is just going to slam Derek Lewis onto the ground and probably drill his head through the floor. You know, I will be optimistic and hope that Jailton Almeida is merciful and just submits Derek Lewis, because I don't need to see Derek Lewis get pounded into the canvas. So I'm going to go with Jailton Almeida by submission. But I hope Derek Lewis wins. I do. But that's going to be it for this one, boys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to drop a like. Leave your predictions in the comments as always. And I'll catch you guys next week. Big pay-per-view next week. Get excited.